Good morning and welcome to a brand new week, the third day in the month of February. And I remain your host on this podcast. And just in case you are visiting for the first time, I am Ojonimi, and this podcast is aimed at leaving you with signposts to help you navigate through the year productively and live life to its fullest. Today, I'll be continuing with the topic I spoke about last Thursday, which was on no limits, no boundaries. Looking at the caption alone, without going further to listen through what I said in the audio, will just make you or make many assume that, well, he's one of these free thinkers. But far be it from that. So this contemplations is actually supposed to challenge some of our current realities, some of the current realities you've come to accept. Let's consider a few of them and how you can break free from them, because whether you like it or not, it affects your everyday living. Firstly, it's going to be, so we are trying to break out of matrices now, okay? So it's going to be the matrix of culture. Culture, they say, is a way of life, and being able to speak the language of the culture is an integral part of it. Before I go further, I have a confession to make. So listen, we don't judge. So I can't speak my local dialect fluently, not because I don't understand, but because I don't interact using it much. As a matter of fact, I would always reply in English, which could be embarrassing sometimes. So come to think of it, as good as culture is, it is like an operating system. So an operating system, if you don't know, is what allows your applications and softwares to run and interact with you, the user of the device, and also the hardwares of the device, like the camera parts of the device, the speakers and all that. So your operating system controls all that. Okay? So when you first gave your life to Christ, that's if you have, there was actually an installation of a new operating system. Or rather, let me rephrase. There was supposed to be a replacement of culture, a way of living. That's what I meant by operating system. Now, this might be hard to take in, but many are still running their Christian lives as just another app or stuff to add to their current living, as in culture. Okay, so they keep their culture and then just carry Christianity as something they do, but many haven't given up their culture. But the truth is, it is supposed to replace your culture. So tell me, which have you been running on all this while? Still your culture, traditional cultures, and the culture you grew up with, or with this newfound culture? Take out time to contemplate these questions and decide in your heart which it will be from today. So if you were still on the fence, or if it were 30-70 or 80-20, no, you would have to decide where you stand today. Accepting that culture of the kingdom would affect every aspect of your life, from your conduct to your dressing, to your association, to your relationship, and etc. And trust me, you can't run both OS, that's the operating systems. You can't run them at the same time. You can't run them in a lifetime that's simultaneously. You will just crash. In Matthew chapter 6 and verse 24, and also in Luke chapter 16 and verse 13, Jesus was speaking there and he said, you can't serve two masters at the same time. And he gave the reasons there, spelled out plainly. Same here. You can't run these two cultures at the same time. Okay? So when I'm asked certain questions about certain conducts, my genuine answer would usually be, it depends on your culture. It might just be a norm in your culture, but for mine, the kingdom culture, that stuff isn't in our dictionary. Which leads me to speaking about having a mind of your own, like an independent mind. That stuff is really dangerous because truly you can't have a mind of your own, and I will explain. What happens in the mind is that the mind is the seat of intellect, emotions, and will, but the influencers of the mind are these two major things: the spirit man and the flesh. And 90% of the time, the unregenerate mind would always tilt towards taking decisions in favor of the flesh and senses. So you see it, it looks, sounds, and feel good, like Eve experienced in the Garden of Eden, and you just adopt it as part of your style or way of living. That approach of life will bring about slow death. The only difference is this death won't be the popular slow and painful death, but it's definitely leading towards death. The next point now would be the matrix of popular opinion. So, would you take out time to review some of your popular opinions that you've come to accept? I would give you a starting point, and this is going to be closely linked with the previous point on culture. The popular opinion that the government of a country determines your level of success or productivity. That's like one very, very big popular opinion. This popular opinion, which has led so many into hopelessness when the seemingly wrong person steps into power. I've seen it. It's happening. Some of us even experience it. But I have been contemplating on this like some time back, and I began to ask and meditate on what God's opinion was, because I wasn't going to fall for this popular opinion, and this was what I found. I'm going to share with you what I found. From the inception, God intended a theocratic government. And what it means is He Himself intended to lead His people by His word. We see that in the Old Testament concerning the children of Israel. We see play out from His deliverance of them from the land of Egypt to leading them by His word through the wilderness and all that. But then, during the time of Samuel, the seer or the prophet, they all decided they wanted to be like other nations, to be ruled by a king man. Okay, so that's where the whole thing started. And God told Samuel, no, they are not rejecting you, because as at that time, Samuel was the one bringing the word of the Lord to the people. So they were directly, I won't say indirectly now, they were directly led by the words that were coming from God through Samuel. Okay, so let's consider these few thoughts. Even with the crash of currency prices, the hyperinflation, etc., going on in the nation, have you seen any of the laws of God dwindle? Like the economy is dwindling. And you might ask, what do I mean by that? So let me explain. If you plant a seed today, will it fail to germinate because of bad economy or bad leadership? Another example, if you have livestock and you keep them with the integrity of your heart and with the skillfulness of your hand, would they fail to multiply? Let's say you have like the male and the female. The sun would be up in few hours, and it's been consistent right from inception, like right from creation. This sun or solar energy is what we have used where I stay to power the house, and it hasn't failed for once. That's why sometimes some time back when I see the news on grid collapse and blackouts, I honestly couldn't relate because whether grid or no grid, I had light like round the clock, 24 hours, 7 days a week, 30 days a month. The light doesn't go off, right? Because it was operating not on national grid, but on the basic laws of God. So I ask you today, how much of your life have you left to be determined by this particular popular opinion? Write them in your diary today and begin to work towards breaking out of them, because I've been doing a lot of that. If you truly belong to the government and the culture of the kingdom, then begin to operate as such. It's more than just confession now. Begin to renew your mind. I will just speak on the last one and then leave the others for Thursday. This is going to be a series from the look of things. So finally, let's address the matrix of entitlement. This is a big one that many of us fall for. But the truth is, you are primarily responsible for the outcomes that you see. And understand me, of course, there are many factors. But what I mean is, things don't change for the better by themselves. If anything, things would make those changes by subjecting to the law of entropy, and that's disorder. So you keep a house without anybody living in it, nature would act on it and disorder will set in. Same thing without having to work on things and just allowing them by themselves. So meaning you're responsible for making that relationship work. Yes, this is a word for someone. It is not behavioral difference. It's not what the other person is doing or isn't doing. You are responsible to make it work. You are responsible for the changes you want to see in your family or that group you belong to. You are responsible to clean that environment. You're responsible for that clean environment with clear air you want to see. This is not about traveling overseas or waiting for the government to come and do it for you now. The other side of the coin is nobody intrinsically is truly obligated to do anything for you. And you might say, but I paid for it, so this statement isn't valid. But that payment you made, right, was only supposed to be an exchange of value and not buying the person's soul. In this case, the will, emotion, and intellect. That's why I still say thank you to people even after paying them. It is possible for people to collect your money and still do their mind. I'm sure you must have had experiences of that. Well, that's why we have judiciaries and court and all that, but that's not a hassle you want to go through, yeah? So, the next time you walk into a building and complain of it being unkept, know that you are responsible for the state of that place and nobody is really obligated to keep it clean for you, especially if it's your space, even if you paid for it, okay? This might be a hard one to break from, but also I promise you you will begin to see results. I have applied it. Now, I don't wait for anybody to make the change. I don't wait for people to make the innovations. I am responsible. I wake up to responsibilities, right? Because I'm trying to break out from that matrix of being entitled. So this is my counsel for today as we wrap up. Number 1, start a journal today. And I can tell you what, if you haven't been keeping a journal, I can almost predict that you can't really pinpoint how your January went. You just know, okay, some days I was fasting. Yeah, I did 21 days fast. I did this, I did that. You could just bring out like spots of them, but you can't really tell, okay, this is what I learned. This is This is how much that came in for me in terms of income and all that. There is no track record. So start a journal today. This is my counsel. Number 2, start breaking from these matrices I have mentioned. I'm going to be mentioning so many more. But first, start breaking them from your mind. You don't have to immediately try to alter physical conditions or realities. Begin to culture your mind. Listen to this podcast over and over again till you understand what I've said, and culture your mind. Use books, use materials, use sermons if you may, because that's the word of the Lord coming to guide you. Use it to culture your mind, okay? And finally, so this is an assignment I'm going to be giving now, and this is it. In your diary, just sit out and write as much as you can on how your ideal life is supposed to look like. After writing, I'll tell you what to do next as time progresses, but just write and ensure that there are no limitations. So on this one now, I'm not telling you to go and do something outside that people will laugh. No, do this in your diary, okay? Forget about economy. Just write that ideal life, okay? So we have come to the end of this podcast, and if you found value, don't forget to leave a like and comment with your questions and share with family and friends who need to hear this. And so I thought to just mention this again. This month we are going to be having a series of 7. So they are supposed to be 8, but we're going to be having a series of 7. So what happens on the 8th one is it's going to be question and answers. So I'm going to be answering your questions. You could leave the questions in my Gmail. You could leave it in the comment section. I'm going to write it down in my diary. I'm going to pray about it, and then I'm going to be answering the questions on the last series. That's the 8th one for the month of February. So you are blessed this week. Go and produce results. Bye for now.